unmuting. So we should now be all clear. So thank you very much, especially to those of you who are here on a nice evening like this. You could have been sitting in your gardens with a nice white wine, but there we go. Very much appreciate you coming. First of all, have we got any apologies, Jackie?
Yeah, we've got Ian, Markham, Russell Fortune and Dave Collins.
Okay, thank you. So the running order this evening will be that I'll give a sort of a summary report on what happened last year. We'll then change it a little bit. We'll let Tony Rice talk on behalf of Youth Club because he has to get away. And then we'll then talk about the clubhouse. So we'll do the chair's report excluding the clubhouse, Tony, and the clubhouse, then the ward councillor's report, and then other village organisations to speak, and then any individual who wants to speak. Okay, and there'll be a Q&A after each of the sessions. So obviously, dates. So let me start then with my report for the parish meeting, and I'd like to start really by thanking residents for taking the trouble to vote in the elections on 4th of May. We actually had the second highest turnout in Milton Keynes. There was only Oni that had a slightly higher turnout, and only very slightly. We were at 42.7%, which is pretty good because the turnout in these local elections is usually just north of 30%. So that was pretty good. And in Oni, they had a big political battle for the City Council seat. I'd like to thank the two unsuccessful candidates for standing. It really is important for local democracy that residents do get a chance to vote for people who are prepared to give their time and their energy for the community. And one of the candidates was actually within 4 votes of winning in any case, so it was pretty good. Congratulations to Steve Bradbury, who accepted a demotion from clerk to councillor, and to Alison Andrew, who was elected as our new city councillor. I'd also like to thank for their services John Keane and George Bowyer, who stood down as parish councillor and city councillor respectively. We also welcome Jackie Ladyman as our new clerk, replacing Steve. The past years seen 2 major challenges. The development at Carrington Grove and a proposed new clubhouse, but I will come back to that. It's the Giga-Clear rollout, national events and financial challenges. I'll start with Carrington Grove. The allocation of land for Carrington Grove was part of our neighbourhood plan and was overwhelmingly supported by residents. However, there were major issues with the development, which absorbed much of the parish council's time during 2022, dealing with Milton Keynes Council, and there's still some outstanding matters. I mean, certainly, for example, the landscaping down there has definitely not been finished as it was meant to have been. Financially, what's called S106 or planning gain money has been paid to Milton Keynes Council. Some of this was negotiated by the parish council and is available for various projects, including new services at Hanslope Surgery, facilities at the first school, early years development, which will help with a possible preschool, and funding for the clubhouse will come back to. A possible extension at the shop, which is one of the things we are looking at. Some public art and some voluntary sector, which will go to, we hope, Youth Club. The other main focus has been highways, which has been, again, very difficult to deal with this year. Parking, particularly in South Street, has been an issue because of the number of houses without off-road parking spaces. The parish council arranged with Milton Keynes Council to repaint the parking bays outside the nursery to create more spaces, but space still does remain very limited. Parking is a particular problem at the entrance to Maltings Field, and residents there have been unable to get their bins emptied on many occasions because the lorry cannot get past the parked vehicles. Please park considerately. I have been in contact with our PCSO, and he will be coming up regularly to check. But a particular concern is emergency vehicle access, and the Parish Council is investigating that, including the possible provision of yellow lines. Speeding remains an issue. The Parish Council was successful in obtaining a grant to help purchase 2 solar-powered speed indicator devices, SIDs, and they'll be obtained in the near future. We're just getting the quotes in at the moment. Data is passed to the police, and the PCSOs, supported by PCs, will start using speed guns where speeds are recorded as being high. We now have volunteers for Community Speed Watch, which Steve Bradbury is leading on, and are obtaining the necessary equipment and doing the little bit of online training that you have to do. Please contact us if you're interested. But I'll say, please contact Steve Bradbury, I think. The streetlight upgrade continues extremely slowly and with lamentable feedback from Milton Keynes Council, despite repeated requests. Most of the new lights have been installed. I think there are just 4 on footpaths that are outstanding. 2 post-mounted lights in Station Road awaiting lanterns, unless they've been put up since I last walked down there. And 3 new posts in Station Road that are awaiting power connection. I do have a meeting with as it happens, the head of highways on Thursday this week, and I will be raising that and other matters with him. The Parish Council has re-tendered the landscaping contract, but because of delays at Milton Keynes Council, who make a grant to cover part of the cost, the new contractor cannot start until the 2024 season. And that will give us problems, we think, in dealing with the outgoing contractor during this year. The village has again entered the Best Kept Village competition, which will be judged in June and early July. They don't tell us exactly when, of course. And we're extremely grateful to the volunteers who've offered to litter pick over that period. A number of national events. Thanks to a number of volunteers, a weekend of events was arranged for the Platinum Jubilee last June, with Jubilee mugs given to all under 18s in the village. And incidentally, Polly McGee still has got some of those mugs which have been ordered but not collected. The Parish Council and the Church arranged a book of condolences for villagers to sign on the death of Her Majesty in September. And finally, the coronation was celebrated by a free afternoon tea, organised again by Polly, and commemorative coins given to under 18s. And again, there are still some available from Polly. Community is not a national event, but it is a regular opportunity to meet your friends and neighbours, and is held at the village hall every other Wednesday between 2 and 4 p.m. Tea, coffee and cakes are provided free of charge, and it's all run by a group of volunteers. Donations are not requested or required, but nonetheless some are made, and this is now accumulated to a sum of £150 after any costs for the cakes and so on, which the volunteers have decided to donate to the Air Ambulance charity. So it's very good. So please do come along. It is a nice opportunity to meet other people, and frankly, who can say no to cake? Are there any questions anyone would like to ask on that? Steve?
Yeah, what do we know about the bin rollout, the waste bin rollout?
Okay, you didn't come there, but then you are a character, so we couldn't expect you to know any better. Well, that is actually the reason that the landscaping contract was delayed, because it's part of a very large contract which is being let by Milton Keynes, which covers, you know, quite a wide variety of things. I believe it's now been rolled out in September. We did have a site visit by the project manager, a number of other officers, and indeed the cabinet member responsible. Which was pretty good, and we were supported by our ward councillors. So thank you very much for turning out for that. There are a few exceptions in the village for those houses which really don't have rear access to bring their bins forward, or other limitations. But there is a postcode checker where you can put your postcode and house number into it, and you can see whether you're one of those houses. If you're physically unable to manhandle these bins, because they are, you know, 4 bins, is pretty much the same size as the green bins are at the moment, exactly the same size. If you're physically unable to do that and need assistance, then you need to apply to Milton Keynes Council, and they say they will provide that assistance. So I hope they'll do that very quickly.
Potholes. Potholes. Is that part of the speeding initiative? Or,
Potholes. Well, I mean, we do report potholes all the time. And in fairness to Milton Keynes Council, they do actually have officers who are constantly driving around inspecting the roads. The board, perhaps I'll ask Chris to deal with that when he speaks in a minute. But I mean, I think the problem is they just have got a very limited budget. I mean, I think in Castlethorpe, we used to have fantastic roads actually. But the road outside the front here is, you know, subsided in quite a few places. I believe that is now scheduled to have some work done on it. I personally think that Bullington End Road is just a disgrace. I mean, yeah, it's just dreadful. So I will walk Mr. Cox, the head of highways, as far as he is prepared to walk on Thursday. Well, and Jackie is prepared to walk. It's the two of us meeting him, we'll see what we can do there.
Can I just mention the lampposts? They've been painted, but inadequately, because the higher up you go, the thinner the paint, and then it's all.
Oh no, right.
That's what. So can somebody please have a look at them? Because they look a mess now.
Where are you talking about,
Well,
Chris?
certainly the one outside of my house in Front Close has been painted up to where the lamp is, and then they've attempted to paint some of it. They've either not done a good job or it's been peeling away, but it needs to be done.
Okay, now in Thrupp Close, with the exception of one new lamppost, which is just on the entrance to where Steve lives, you live. All those lampposts were actually painted, or the parish council paid for that to be painted about 2 years ago, was it, Steve?
Not those two. Not Thrupp Close.
Not Thrupp Close.
No, they were in the right state.
These
are lampposts that we've asked them, because that rather than putting new posts, they're going to use the existing posts, which were in the right state.
Right.
And that was part of the contract.
Okay, so those all right.
And it said wet paint on the.
All right. Well, we'll okay. We'll have a look at that now.
Please.
Perhaps you could pop round and have a look.
Yeah, it is part of the scope of what we are.
Yeah, indeed, of course. Yes, I've forgotten that those were being converted. Yes, of course they were. Okay, right. What we'll now do is invite Tony, if you could possibly to give the. It's like mastermind, isn't it, Tony?
It's all on, isn't it?
Actually, I took you need to no, you don't unmute.
Oh, I don't.
No, don't unmute because it's using this microphone here. There you go. So it's just so we can
Thank
So
you.
welcome, Tony. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Philip, and the Parish Council for letting me jump in early, purely for personal reasons. So I've got to unpack. Just here to give you an update on the youth club this year. The youth club continues to grow and keep strong. We are, by my calculations, I know Yvonne's in here, we're now in our 30th year, which quite clearly makes us more than 30 years. Over 30 years, which is still the longest running youth club in the county. And that's a massive thanks to all the volunteers who help with the youth leaders. We have over 35 children registered. They don't all turn up, thankfully, every week. But we do get in excess of 20 who come every week. And they take advantage of the great range of activities we offer. For example, so far this year, we've been to virtual VR, done some reality gaming. They've been walking up to Hanslow. We have a bike ride coming. We're orienteering across Castle Field in the next couple of weeks. And we have our annual bike ride down to the Chippy in Havisham, which Father Adam has promised to come along to with his basket on his bike, hopefully. So there's a whole range of activities. Some of our equipment is a little dated now and some of it is needing repair, but we're obviously talking to the Parish Council and Milton Council Section 106 money, which hopefully will help us to improve some of the equipment we have and also to help us take the kids away on an activity weekend, which we do normally every 3 to 5 years. But with COVID, that's been delayed somewhat. And also, we are looking to try and put on another youth club show, one of our famous youth club shows, which were hard work, but very enjoyable. We're trying to see if we can put something on later in the year. Now that the numbers are quite strong. The warm weather's here. We're going to take advantage of the next few weeks. We've been to the park already. We'll be playing rounders and football and tennis up at the sports field. And we do always get a good turnout for that, the kids. And in July, we have our end of year new starter barbecue. This is for all youngsters within the village who will be going into year 6 in September. They can come along with their parents on a free trial night and have a free burger or a hot dog. We play plenty of games, and sometimes we also get our PCSO along as well to join in. So it's a good fun night, and hopefully the weather will be good for us. And that'll be in July. The only challenges we have as a youth club are youth leaders. Our constitution is very clear. We have to have 3 youth leaders, male and female, on every Tuesday evening. In case there's an accident, one youth leader has to go, we have to have a male and female because of the mix we have. Whilst we have some wonderful ladies who come along and give up some time once a month, and they're our rota, we are short of male youth leaders. And we could really do with a couple more gentlemen coming along, want to get involved. Your kids may not be here yet. They may be coming in a few years' time, or you might just want to get involved in some of the activities and be part of the youth club. So if there is anybody who's interested, please contact me because we'd be keen to get somebody on. We look after all the DBS checks and all the other qualifications you need to get. So, it's, and hopefully it's only once a month for a couple of hours, come along and join in the fun. Other than that, youth club is still going strong and remains a vital part of the village facilities for our young people.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Any questions for Dan? No.
Fabulous.
Well,
Thank you very much.
have a great time. Okay.
I don't post too many pictures, like I just made
Thank you.
Right, I'll now move on to the clubhouse and give a report on that, and then we can have a Q&A related to that. Milton Keynes Council's currently conducting a postal poll, as I'm sure you've all now received your voting slips for that. And that will help the parish council decide whether the residents want the clubhouse to proceed. I see from one of my rare forays onto Facebook that some residents are unsure of the history. So forgive me if I just start with the background before going on to the current position. The Carrington Arms closed 15 years ago in 2008. And since then, there have been many attempts to try and persuade the owner, Simon Hill, to reopen it, including a pub action group, of which I was a member, an initiative with Camera, which Steve was involved with, and attempts by John Keane to make the building safe and get it redecorated. Despite all these, in March of last year, Simon Hill came to our Parish Council meeting and said he no longer wanted to redevelop it and intended to sell it. He offered the Parish Council first refusal, but at market rates, and we looked at what was involved, and specifically we looked at the building and decided that it was beyond both and our financial resources. Now, I'm aware that with requisite ability, has formed a group to look again, search that we did any support that I can give. However, we think that the likelihood of a financial return on the investment required for a pub is poor, especially in an environment where 50 pubs a week are closing in England and Wales. And there's also obviously the major problem of no parking space. However, whenever we've done a survey in the village, opening the pub still remained top priority among residents. We have a population of 1,100. In fact, it must be going up close to 1,200 now with Carrington Grove, and one would expect a pub in a village of this size. The Parish Council had negotiated planning gain associated with the new Carrington Grove development for a number of areas, and we decided to put that towards extending the cricket pavilion and creating a clubhouse open to all residents. We are aware of a number of other suggestions, some of them very imaginative, such as a boardwalk down to the navigation, but these would be outside the scope of planning gain, as indeed would be refurbishing the Carrington. In fact, all other potential uses of the money have either already been done, such as the adult exercise equipment or play area equipment, or have access to other parts of the S106 settlement, such as the school, the preschool, the surgery, or the youth club, as you just heard. The clubhouse idea was discussed in 2022. There's a big article in Castlethorpe News in April of last year, and updates in the September and December editions. In January this year, there were two big meetings. We deliberately leafleted particularly those residents in Thrupp Close who were likely to be affected. And we had two big meetings in January and a smaller one with specifically with some Thrupp residents. And changes to the plans were made to address their concerns, particularly reorienting the entrance. An update was in the March edition of the news, and we've also given updates at each of the monthly parish council meetings. A project board has been established with individuals who can contribute specific skills in construction management, heating systems, planning and building design, interior design and finance, plus the cricket club, as it's obviously their pavilion that's been remodeled. We have submitted a planning application which can be viewed online on the Milton Keynes website, though the drawing is the same as in the poll leaflet that you will have all received. The decision date for the planning application is the 10th of July, and at the same time as submitting the planning, detailed specifications have been drawn up ready for an invitation to tender to be issued to potential suppliers. The promised parish poll is now in progress, and the result will be announced at the parish council meeting on the 5th of June. So it closes on the Friday the 2nd, and they'll count it, and then they'll notify me of the result. At the same time, having voted myself on this, if I could digress very, very briefly, because, and it may just me being a little bit stupid, but I did find the instructions a little bit confusing. It is a double envelope system. So in other words, you put one envelope inside another envelope. So what you do is you tear the perforated strip that came with the pack in two. You vote on one half and you put it in the brown envelope with your vote on the side away from the window. And so that your voting number, not your vote, shows through the window. You then put the brown envelope inside the white envelope. You write your name and signature on the other half of the perforated slip, and you put that in the white envelope in front of the brown one, so that the Milton Keynes Council address, I think it says the counting officer is the first line, shows through that window, and then you put the whole thing in the post. So I don't normally do postal votes, so it may be this is the same as what happens if you have a postal vote. But I found it a little bit confusing as someone who normally comes down here. There we go.
Contrary to the detailed instruction, there was no box to put your date of birth in, so
No.
I assume you didn't have to do that.
No, you didn't.
And the date of birth.
Actually, there were 3 mistakes on it. And if you want a humorous aside, I picked up, one was that. One was about voting in person, which is mentioned somewhere in there. And the other was the date was wrong in one place. It was the 30th of May instead of the 2nd of June. So I wrote to, and I have to say, the head of democratic services at Milton Keynes Council, I'm very critical of Milton Keynes Council a lot of times, but he is one of the good guys. And he was extremely embarrassed by this. And he'd been very busy with the elections, which immediately preceded all of this. And the humorous aside is that he has written back to me saying, I'm very sorry that we didn't proof check this. The printer did this without our approval. We will approach the printer and see if we can get him to waive all the charges, because the parish council is going to have to pay for that. So whether he gets away with that or not, I don't know. But if it does, it'll be a few hundred quid more for the parish council. Right. I have seen some comments that implies that the parish council's got its own agenda on the clubhouse. Let me be clear. I'm absolutely confident I'm speaking on behalf of all members of the parish council. Our agenda is your agenda. We communicate with you, we listen to you, and we decide with the judgment for which you elected us. Of course, nothing in the village will get 100% support, but we always act in the interests of the village as a whole. We're approaching the project in 2 phases. Phase 1 is for the building work to remodel the pavilion and construct the clubhouse. The pavilion will be fully fitted out and will provide larger changing rooms, new toilets, and a small parish office. The pavilion has to be ready for the start of the cricket season in April, which should be doable as it's about 2 months' work. That's the estimate. The clubhouse extension will take a little bit longer to complete. Assuming residents support the project and Milton Keynes Council give planning permission and the quotes were in our budget, we hope to award the phase 1 contract in July. Phase 2 of the contract will be fitting out the bar, kitchen and lounge area of the clubhouse, and that contract will be awarded later in the year. Now, I can't talk in any detail about the money because it's now become commercially sensitive to potential bidders for this. If I start giving budgets and so on, it will give them a very clear steer. We have made the request for planning gain funds to Milton Keynes Council and had a very positive Teams meeting with them, with the S106 officers, and we expect formal approval in June. What I can say is that we have had a professional estimate of costs, and we've identified nearly all of the money for phase one. We may need some small grants depending on how the final grants come in, final quotes come in. Phase two, fitting out the clubhouse, is not yet funded. The Parish Council may need to borrow money from the Public Works Loan Board, but that has a very low rate of interest. However, we would expect over the rest of the year to finalise the specification for the fit out, get some quotes as to how much it's going to cost, and seek some grants from, which will be larger grants from other organisations like Lottery and so on. It will be a members club with all residents given free membership and able to sign in their guests. I see some questions about hours of opening and will a coffee service be available and so on. It's not possible to answer that now, as it really will depend on how much we all want to use it. Though we have said that larger functions and parties will remain here at the village hall. I know some people like certainty, and we all do, I guess, really. I can only say that I have been through this before. 15 years ago, there were objectors to the shop who said it would be a white elephant and end up as a sorting office for the Royal Mail. They could have been right, but they weren't. And I hope that a clubhouse will enjoy the same sort of success. Please fill in your postal voting forms and send them to Milton Keynes Council. You may feel it's unnecessary and that there will be a majority in favour anyway, but this is not necessarily the case, and certainly strong village support will help our chances of getting grants, especially for fitting out the clubhouse. So I think I'll finish just by saying cheers. So, any questions?
Can I just say something? You've spoken about all the cars that are parked in South Street, Wellington End Road, and the start of close. You're ending up on the wrong side of the road most of the way through the village now.
Yeah, yes, I know. Yeah. I mean, Yvonne, that's, you know, going back to the other bit, but I mean, it is the case. I mean, the fact is that, you know, for a village that was largely designed before the age of the car, not only have most households got one car, most of them have got two, and a number of them have got more than two cars. Although there are some houses, or the newer houses do have off-road parking spaces, you're quite right. On the west side of Bullington End Road, of South Street and the bottom of Station Road. Yeah. Anyway, back to the clubhouse. Did anyone want to speak and actually come up? Yeah. Yeah, but people can't, who are watching, can't.
It's anybody who's interested. Just disappointed that after several months, the plans are as vague as they are. You've had a lot of time to work out what an operating unit would look like, what the operating costs might look like, and now you're talking about needing to go to the Public Works Loan Board for additional funding. I presume that's six figures. I'd be interested to know what that's going to do to our council tax. And finally, does the S106 money cover it? Does it cover the extension to the pavilion and the parish council of this, or actually is it contingent on completing the work on the bar?
Sorry, I mean, Steve, it's a pity you didn't come up because people may not be able to hear you at that distance from the microphone. That's actually why we brought the on the
microphone than you usually have, and that people manage to hear.
Yeah, well, people do come forward for that, Steve. These plans are complicated, and I can only tell you that that project board, who consists of extremely competent individuals, many of whom, in fact, most of whom have got their day jobs as professionals in their area of expertise, have taken this time to get the application in and the work done to this level. It's simply not possible. I mean, I don't know what you would say an operating model would be. How many people would you have said would come to use the shop? How many people would come to use the bar? You cannot possibly know what those numbers will be. You have to assume that if the village votes for it, they will use it, and that will therefore generate the business for it. I don't know what else I can say.
So I contest that it was less than a weekend's work to realise that the number of drinks you'd have to sell in order to break even on the facility was probably impossible to achieve. And on the back of an envelope, somebody could work that time. So I refuse to believe that you've been working on this for several months and you still not even have a straw man idea of how this will look. And I think people have a reasonable point that they want to be able to vote on something with enough certainty to realise whether this money is going to something that will be a all year round facility or something that will be open on the 10 weekends a year when the cricketers are at home and the rest of the time will be closed.
Surely there's a point though that even if the village wasn't using it, it would be there for the people who are using the sports field, like the cricket club, the football club. It would be a facility for them, which S106 are going to a community amenity like that, which, you know, they have young people there, they have older people there, they have adult teams, children teams, and to me, surely that is a good thing, that even if it wasn't used as a bar, or if the fact that they are enlarging it and making it a better space for those teams, surely that's a good use of S106 money.
Yes, I absolutely agree, and if the S106 money can be used just for that, then that seems like a reasonable.
Yeah, but that is I've always said, Steve, that is the baseline case that you would always have, that you would have a facility there for that. But it's not intended just for the sports clubs. It is intended for the village as a whole. And if the village, you know, we build it, and if the village wants to use it, then it will get that use, and it will basically, it will fit around that. Okay, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I think Steve's assuming an operating model in his mind anyway. But the idea is that we will have a facility that could be used, and it would be nice for it to be used as a bar and things like that. But that will have to be backed up with the business case, and not all business cases succeed. But if we end up with somewhere where we just dispense coffee, tea, for village groups and things like that, all well and good. It might not work as a bar, but we won't know, and that's the point of not having established a business model. We need to look at options, and we need to look and see what we think is viable, and then we test it. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't. But if it doesn't work, then we go on to something else. And we do something maybe less grandiose.
But how many years will the village have to pay for that public works loan board alone in order to recoup that cost? If
no, you're getting ahead there. I said right at the very outset back in January that we probably would need a public works loan board.
You did, and several months later, you're still not able to tell us how much that will be or what the impact will be on our council.
Well, I'm telling. I mean, the parish council will look at. We don't have the quotes in at this stage for the design and of the bar and kitchen area. The clubhouse area is easier, but even that is more difficult. We've been focused on making sure that the pavilion and the building construction is right, Steve. I mean, that's just it. It's in 2 phases. We've got phase 1 nailed down. Phase 2 can be done. If it is uneconomic, you know, there are ways in which you could put in a lower cost clubhouse. I don't think that would be nearly as attractive. I don't think it's really what the village would want, but you could do that. But we'll address that problem when we come to it. Any other comments? No, okay. Right, in that case, I think Ward Councillor report. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm speaking for a minute.
We ought to play the Hide and Farewell Symphony, shouldn't we? As the members of the orchestra slowly vanish into the scenes.
Take it first.
Right, I'd like to welcome Chris Wardle, who is one of our 3 city councillors, and has been very supportive of the parish council over the last year, in fact, since he came into office. So thank you very much for your support, Chris. And I believe you're speaking on behalf of the 3 ward councillors this evening.
Yes, correct. I think the first thing to address, as the chair did at the beginning of the meeting, is the latest local election results. As Councillor Earls stated, importantly, Councillor George Bowyer has retired from politics, which is, he acted as a mentor for both myself and Liam and has done tremendous service to Newport Pagnell North and Hounslow Ward, including this village. Of course, he's been replaced by Councillor Alison Andrew, who I think will be an amazing city councillor. She's an experienced and hard-working parish councillor in Hounslow. She's lived in Hounslow for most of her life and knows the villages very well. So I think she's going to be a fantastic addition to our team. I know I've mentioned this at the last council meeting as well, but also like to take the opportunity to congratulate all the members of the parish council who've been elected at the recent local elections, and of course welcome to the new clerk as well, who I think will do a fantastic job. When I think about the last year with Milton Keynes Council, think of it as a highly eventful one, being because of both local and national events that have happened. Around this time last year, Milton Keynes was bestowed city status, which is a tremendous achievement for the city. I still remember in my youth listening to Horizon Radio and listening to the constant tagline, Milton Keynes, Britain's newest city. So it's brilliant to finally see that Milton Keynes has got that recognition. Shortly after, of course, we had the sad passing of Queen Elizabeth II and the proclamation of King Charles III. It was the first time we had ever had a proclamation of Milton Keynes, because Milton Keynes did not exist when there was a proclamation. King Charles also came to visit the city to convey the city state earlier on this year. Moving on to a couple of things that were relevant to my ward. Leah Williamson, who came from Newport Pagnell, has provided freedom to the city in recognition of the sporting achievements as captain of the Lionesses and our work at Arsenal Football Club. And of course, I'm going to have to mention this, about a year ago, Newport Pagnell Town Football Club won the FA Vase. And myself and Councillor Andrew both went down to Wembley over the weekend. Sadly, saw them lose the final to retain it, but it was brilliant to see Newport Pagnell Town Football Club get to Wembley again. It's a magnificent achievement. In terms of what I've been doing in council personally, over the past year, I have been Shadow Cabinet Member for Resources, so my role has mainly been on the front line scrutinising the council budget and the way it spends taxpayers' money. I continue to sit on the Budget and Audit Committee. My colleague, Councillor Andrews, had the customer services portfolio this year, so he used to look at licensing and all that jazz. And he was elected as deputy leader of the Conservative group on Milton Keynes Council recently as well, which we look forward to working on. In terms of support we've provided specifically for Castlethorpe, one thing we have supported the Parish Council on over the last year were the various issues that came out of Carrington Grove. This included the issue regarding the social housing element of the estate, which unfortunately Milton Keynes Council did not help the council on, unfortunately. And of course, we also helped regarding the Section 106 allocation. Of course, Stonewall didn't initially want to pay Section 106. And fortunately, as far as I understand it, you've now received some of the money.
Oh, Kingston's received it, yeah.
Perfect.
Mm.
Exactly what we wanted to see. And of course, each year, every ward councillor gets a pot of money from Milton Council, about £1,000 that they can spend in their ward. As a trio, we usually call ours together and then split it across the parish and give about £500 to different projects. Last year, we gave £500 towards us aid courses in Castlethorpe. The year before, we put up £500 towards a senior citizen lunch run by the parish council as well. In terms of what I'm currently doing, following the last parish council meeting, it was brought to my attention the issues regarding how traffic plans can be enforced on planning applications to ensure that construction traffic does not cause any unnecessary disruption, does not follow any inappropriate routes in delivery of planning applications. I have emailed officers on this, unfortunately, because it's still fairly recent. I have not received a response back yet. However, I will let the parish council know, of course, residents know if necessary. I know this is definitely going to be something which is interest for my whole entire ward, particularly Havisham, who may be affected by the construction on the Agora site later on this year. Things that are upcoming. I'm not going to dwell too much on this because it's already been mentioned. The wheelie bins are coming. Unfortunately, of course, we joined, as Bill mentioned, myself, Councillor Andrews and Councillor Bowyer all joined a walkabout in Castlethorpe to try and highlight problem areas. If anyone's got any questions on that, we're more than happy to go away and try and find the answer needed. I think the one thing that I don't think Phil mentioned earlier was the problem of side waste. That's one of the questions we particularly ask when we're on the walkabout in Castlethorpe. Unfortunately, if your bin's full, you cannot put the remainder of your rubbish in a rubbish bag on the side. It will not be collected by Milton Keynes Council, unfortunately, which is something we weren't that too happy about. So, another thing that's coming up and something we're definitely going to be keeping our ears to the ground on is the new plan MK2, otherwise dubbed the new city plan, which can be both an opportunity and a threat in that it can provide protection to certain areas, but equally plan MK2 was also used as a way for the council to allocate areas for housing. We've heard one or two rumours at the moment, everything's conjecture. However, be rest assured, one thing I did say in my maiden speech at council was I would oppose any inappropriate planning applications, and I will continue to do so in my role as a ward councillor. Another thing to mention is that there is talk about a potential boundary review in Milton Keynes Council in 2026, when we're expecting potentially all-out elections. That's something to keep your eye on. In terms of how you can contact the ward councils, of course, we're all contactable via email. All three of us have Facebook pages, so feel free to contact us on any of our social media platforms. We usually have at least one ward councillor at Castlethorpe Parish Council every month. If you can't catch us there, of course, we also send at least one ward councillor to every single parish council in the ward each month. So if it's the second Monday, you can catch us in Hounslow. If it's the third, you can probably catch us in Havisham as well. So there are hopefully plenty of ways to catch us. Of course, if you've got anything you want to bring to our attention that you don't want to shout out about in the Q&A, please feel free to have a word with myself on me, and afterwards we'll be more than happy to pass your business cards and have a chat. One thing I think you mentioned earlier is potentially potholes. Unfortunately, in terms of figures, the last non-key budget wasn't very transparent, unfortunately. It meant the only mention of potholes in all the budget paperwork at all was £100,000 in one-off pressures, which does not seem like a massive amount of money, unfortunately. In the press, the council claims that you're spending £3.3 million on potholes. However, as I said, it wasn't clear. They also said that 50 potholes were being filled a day, and there are about £15,000 awaiting repair. This was from a news article in January. Recently, the government announced 1.2 million additional funding for potholes in Milton Keynes on top of the 2.8 million annual budget they provide to Milton Keynes. There is normally a minimum depth needed. Because of this, the council are usually fairly reactive when it comes down to potholes. rather than proactive. Unfortunately, highways do get a lot of reports. My advice on this one is if you see a pothole, please report it on the council website. Every report it helps. And if there's anything particular that you want us to bring up the council, we're more than happy to chase something up for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. If myself or Liam are unable to answer it, we'll go away and we'll see if we can find an answer for you.
Thank you very much, Chris. And for you and for residents, the construction traffic management plan that Chris referred to, which sounds all very technical, but actually it's to do with mobile homes and construction traffic going down Foxcovert Lane. I mean, this is very, very close to home. We had asked in our comments on the planning application that the route for construction traffic should be through Havisham, not through Castlethorpe. And we were told, sorry, Cosgrove. What did I like? Yes, Cosgrove, not Castlethorpe. And the planning officer responded that that was unenforceable and contradicted by the national planning framework, which is very odd because we'd had that in previous applications. So Chris has very kindly said that he'll take that up as a matter of principle, because it affects not only Foxcovert Lane, it affects all sorts of places within the ward and indeed within the borough.
It's a very concerning statement.
Yeah, sorry, just to tell off on that one. The delivery management plan does actually stipulate delivery through Cosgrove. So the management plan that was supposed to get with the application is actually saying that they'll be delivered through Cosgrove. But of course, then it becomes somebody else's problem because they've got to get the problem. It's of course going ahead. Yeah. So it is very difficult.
What they're doing now with caravans is they're having one big one, then the side by side, so get two short ones. And then I'm a council for Cosgrove, and it's an unbelievable problem we got in the back there. Right angle turns, and all the authorities in East West Northampton say, as long as they can get around somehow, we're not really bothered.
That's not but that's not what I recommend.
Okay.
A gentleman in Bullington Road today said, you remember I had awful smells from the sewage a while ago. And I know that Andrew Geary actually got involved in working with Annual Water at the time. I'm sure he did.
Yeah, well, I did as well.
Well, it's bad. Whatever remedial action they took, it hasn't had a long-term effect. And they're saying that there are really bad smells. I've advised them to get as high as they can in Anglian Water. But I've said that if they don't get any joy from them, to drop us an email and I'll try and mobilise whatever I can from Parish Ward Council point of view.
Yes, I spent many a late night out with Jeanette Green and the man from the Anglian Water going through the sewers of Castlethorpe. Well, we didn't actually go through.
But it's just got no sense.
I know, I know more about the sewers than I wish I did. Really.
But just be aware that there are some bad smells.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you kindly run with that, that'd be great. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for board councillors? No. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you.
Village organisations, Yvonne? Did you give me the W?
My name is Yvonne Hans. I'm president of Castlethorpe WI. We lost a stalwart of WI, Joyce Malcolm. She was a committee member. She's been president, vice president, and minutes secretary over the years. And a planter on the step of the village hall is our tribute to all the WI members that we have lost recently. WI was 90 years old recently, and we celebrated with a Christmas joint 90th birthday celebrations. And through the year, we had a talk on garden design tips. Oliver Sawbridge gave a talk on his life growing up in Castlethorpe and following a family tradition as a blacksmith. Our main fundraiser was a quiz and curry evening, enjoyed by over 100 people. This benefited William Hospice as well as RWI. A barbecue and games night was great fun. And the lovely weather this summer saw an afternoon tea in Trish Cheesley's garden. A flower arranging demo by Jill Chapman resulted in a photograph of us all in the Bucks WI newsletter. We decorated masquerade masks. The photo was put on Facebook, and we again ended up with a photo in the Bucks WI newsletter. 2023 so far this year. Jan Banks, a member who lives on a narrowboat, and she told us many funny stories of her adventures on the waterways. Easter crafts by Jan Bracey was fun, a very messy evening. Scott Humphreys gave a talk on the archaeology of Castlethorpe. We all went home with a memento artefacts that had been dug up in the village. We went to church in May. Father Adam talked about his life and the time he lived and worked in Japan. He showed us several Japanese outfits and his memorabilia of ancient and modern Japan. And with renewed membership after COVID, we continue to thrive.
Thank you very much, Yvonne.
I think you have to copy that. Oh, thank you. I don't want to say me right.
Still got time now.
I'm sure there's a translator. Chris,
I've got one.
you've got one.
I'm making under instructions here. This is very last minute. I have no note. It'll be the short report you've ever heard. But my wife Nikki has asked me to stand in for her and just to update you in relation to the dance fitness class that she runs, which is now on a Thursday at 6 o'clock in the evening. And she started it back in August, there having been a gap obviously during the COVID period and everything else. And after giving it some serious consideration about the financial side and health and safety and all the rest, she decided it was probably good for the mental health of the locals if she could offer that class again. They've responded well. She's had sometimes as many as 20 at the class. She averages probably about 12 to 15 in all weathers. They turn out, they love it, they have fun. It's a fun way of keeping fit. She's always keen to have new members. She thoroughly enjoys it herself. She finds it a challenge looking for new music to liven things up, and spends a lot of time, I have to say, at home in planning her classes, and all credit to her, but it's a sign of her enthusiasm. And I just wanted to give her the publicity that I think the class deserves by standing in tonight and talking about something in which I have no connection whatsoever. I have offered to go and film it, but she won't let me for some reason. But other than that, I hope the class continues for a long time to come and is well supported within the village. I think there are quite a few from the village, also from Hounslow, and some also I think from Cosgrove. So it draws in from the three villages, and that's a nice combination to have. And as I say, they have fun, and that's the important thing. Having fun and staying fit. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chris. Karen, did you have a water? No. Oh, okay. Would anyone else like to speak this evening? Yeah. Well, in that case, thank you to those of you that have come out. I think you might just catch the last of the sunshine if you can get to your gardens in time. And thank you for those of you watching on the live stream. Of course, many of you may choose to catch up afterwards, which might be a way of preserving your evening. So thank you all very much, and I'll now end the